The cardboard box suddenly split open, and the thud of frozen meat hitting the ground drowned out the faint click of the manager's office door closing. That was the moment the young girl, Millie, unknowingly ended up locked inside the storage freezer, chilling at -8 degrees Celsius. At first, she didn't notice anything strange, not until the manager shut down the mall lights one by one. A shiver ran through her when the realization hit. Millie jumped up and banged her fists against the thick metal door. Fear surged through her veins as she flicked on the freezer's light, but the brightness did nothing to ease the darkness inside her chest. Outside, the manager was busy with his endless phone calls, too distracted to hear any other sound. Even when he left the mall still talking, her faint cries never reached him. Frantic, Millie searched her pockets for her phone, only to remember it was left sitting on the store counter. The cold storage was merciless, and despair began to creep in. Still, she refused to give up. Spotting a cart, she rammed it repeatedly into the door. The metal didn't budge, though her hands became battered and raw from the effort. The air grew sharper and colder by the minute, forcing Millie to rub her palms furiously for warmth. Her fingers brushed against something unexpected, a movie ticket tucked in her pocket. She glanced at her watch. The last show of the night was about to end. Desperate for hope, she grabbed a metal tray, pressed her eyes on the ticking watch, and when the time struck, she pounded against the door with all her strength. Just outside, a crowd spilled out from the theater. Laughter, chatter, and dinner plans filled the air, masking her desperate banging. Nobody noticed. As the crowd dispersed, a small boy walking past caught the faint noise. He tugged at his father's sleeve, urging him to listen. The man finally put his phone aside and headed closer. But before he could reach the freezer, the tray slipped from Millie's weak hands. Her body had grown too numb, her strength gone. The lights of the mall dimmed one after another until darkness claimed the hallways. Inside the freezer, Millie's wristwatch cracked under the frost, its ticking silenced. Without time, her hope felt even further away. A sharp sting hit her nose, and soon blood dripped from the icy air burning her lungs. She curled into a corner, trembling, unsure how much longer she could hold on. Frost crept up her arms, locking her fingers stiff. Summoning every last bit of willpower, Millie stripped off her earrings, pulled out a thin shirt from her bag, ripped it into strips, and bound her hands and feet. It dulled the pain but couldn't stop the cold from biting deep. Her toes split and bled as she curled tighter into herself. She lost track of time until, in her daze, she realized the freezer's brutal chill poured out from two large fans. A flicker of determination returned. She dragged a heavy box, tore it apart, and climbed up with two cardboard squares. The freezing wind slashed her face like knives as she balanced on a ladder, taping cardboard across the first fan. Just as she finished the second, the first cover flew off. Crawling to grab it, her foot slipped. She fell hard. Pain tore through her body as her right ankle shattered under the fall. The injury in this cold was nearly unbearable. But Millie refused to surrender. She wedged her foot between two shelves, braced herself, bit down, and snapped the joint back in place. Pain shot through her body, but she forced herself to bind the wound with cloth and cardboard, securing it with tape. Barely able to stand, Millie searched for something to eat. The fries nearby had turned into frozen bricks. Just as she lost hope, she spotted a mouse scurrying over a box. She wasn't afraid. Instead, she lifted the box and discovered a piece of chocolate inside. She devoured it instantly, desperate for the smallest spark of energy. She even broke a piece and tossed it to the mouse, her fellow prisoner in this frozen cage. But the freezer kept dropping, the dial now showing -6 degrees. Millie knew if she didn't find another way, her body would soon shut down completely. Then Millie suddenly remembered the lighter tucked inside her bag. With trembling hands, she lit scraps of paper and whatever else she could find. Even her Canadian visa forms went up in flames, her future sacrificed for a few minutes of warmth. The fire worked. The temperature slowly climbed, and even the mouse edged closer, soaking in the heat. But the smoke grew thicker and heavier. Millie coughed violently, choking as the fumes filled her lungs. The realization hit her. If the coal didn't kill her, the smoke would. Desperately, she smothered the flames with a piece of cardboard. Among the ashes, one half-burned sheet caught her eye. It showed a drawing of a warm, safe fortress. That picture sparked an idea. Dragging her battered body, Millie stacked boxes and plastic frames into a makeshift hut. She laid cardboard across the top and even let the mouse inside with her. For a while, it felt less frightening, like she had carved out a tiny refuge. But the cold still seeped through every crack. The ice was merciless. She didn't know how long she drifted in and out of consciousness until she woke with horror. Her arm had slipped off the cardboard and frozen to the icy floor. If she hesitated, it would only stick harder. Clenching her teeth, she yanked her arm free, a scream tearing out of her throat. Blood smeared across the frost. The mouse had already frozen stiff beside her. Every movement now ripped through her with unbearable pain. Her skin split open from the cold. Her gaze lifted toward the spinning fans again. She dragged a steel pipe over, shoved it into the vent, and pushed with all her remaining strength. Blow after blow, she tried to pry the cover loose. Finally, the lid came off, exposing the blades. If she could just stop them, maybe she'd slow down the icy wind. She gripped the steel pipe, but it wasn't enough. By now, the temperature had plunged to minus 17 degrees. Time was running out. Exhausted, she wrapped her frostbitten arm in plastic, then wound the plastic around her entire body, sealing in what little warmth she could. In her left hand, she clutched a rock-solid piece of frozen meat, eyes locked on the fan like a soldier preparing for battle. She hurled the meat at the blades, missed, tried again. Again. Her arms grew heavier, but her determination only sharpened. Finally, with all her strength, she threw one last time. The frozen block smashed into the fan, jamming it. The wind still bit her skin, but this time there was a flicker of victory burning inside her. She crammed in more meat to ensure the blades couldn't move again. One fan down, one to go, but her energy was almost gone. She collapsed after a few failed throws, her body purple and cracked from frostbite. Weakly, she tapped on the wall beside her. Her fingers brushed against a loose screw. With the last spark of will, she pulled a hairpin from her hair and twisted until the screw came free. To her shock, it revealed an escape hatch, but Millie had nothing left. She couldn't even crawl through. Instead, she tapped a tray against the opening. Once, twice. At that very moment, her father, who had been desperately searching, passed by. He heard the faint sound and rushed to investigate. From outside, it looked like nothing more than a fire hydrant box. He almost walked away. But then a loud clang echoed. The tray slipped from Millie's numb fingers and hit the ground. That noise pulled him back. He tore open the hatch, panic fueling his every move. Inside, Millie lay motionless on the frozen floor, eyes closed. Just in time, her father found her.